Hello everyone, I'm Kat Barrett. Welcome to a special edition of In Depth with Tommy Media. Today we will take a closer look at the controversy over St. Thomas's membership in the MIAC. After weeks of discussion on whether St. Thomas should stay in the MIAC, no action was taken at a meeting of university presidents in mid-April. St. Thomas administrators, coaches, and athletes we contacted declined to comment. Tommy Media sports editor Matt Curry and reporter Jacob Schneider are here to analyze what this means for the future of St. Thomas and the MIAC. So Matt, can you tell us a little bit about the meeting that took place last week?
Yeah, so last week the 13 MIAC presidents met to discuss considering bylaws which would have expelled St. Thomas from the conference. Now the bylaw would have been the enrollment cap on how many students each college could have, the largest amount being 4,000. St. Thomas would have then been the only school to be expelled because we have more than 6,000. Now this would not have taken effect until the 2020-2021 school year is over.
So St. Thomas is one of the schools that founded the MIAC in 1920. Jacob, what sort of history does St. Thomas have in the MIAC with their sports teams?
Well, as you mentioned, St. Thomas is one of the founding members of the MIAC conference in 1920. They were one of the 5 founding members, and since then they've gathered 20 conference titles in football, 15 conference titles in men's and women's soccer, and 51 basketball titles in men's and women's basketball. They're a school that has a lot of history in the MIAC. Over the past 100 years, we've had games that have been great. We've had games that have been bad, but St. Thomas as a whole has the Tojo rivalry, Tommy Johnny, one of the biggest D3 rivalries in the nation. If St. Thomas were to be expelled from the MIAC, it would be a big loss, and history would be taken away.
Matt, how did all of this start? What's been kind of the local reaction?
Yes, so on Thursday, April 4th, the Star Tribune released an article announcing that the presidents were going to get together to potentially expel St. Thomas from the MIAC. And ever since then, there was a lot of reactions. A lot of people online were commenting, stating that St. Thomas either should or should not be in the MIAC. A lot of people actually strongly disagreeing and saying that they should stay. But then there were others that really strongly agreed that they should leave. So even a lot of news organizations have split decisions. MinnPost discussed that with the MIAC potentially kicking out St. Thomas, it would be a very, very serious consequence to the MIAC, and it could potentially lose its dominance in the conference. And KARE 11 also discussed if the St. Thomas days are coming to an end within the MIAC. So there's been a lot of mixed reactions because of this.
St. Thomas Sports Information Director Gene McGivern stated, "We support the MIAC, we want to be in the MIAC, and we want to be in Division III. We're doing everything we can to help stabilize membership." Jacob, what are St. Thomas's options if they are ejected from the MIAC in the future?
Well, St. Thomas has 2 direct options if they were to be expelled right now. They could join the WIAC conference in Wisconsin, which is Wisconsin's version of the MIAC, or they could make the jump to Division II. However, the jump to Division II would be very difficult. O'Shaughnessy Field, the football stadium here, is not big enough. It does not have enough allocation for seats to be recognized as a Division II football stadium. However, St. Thomas would also have to start handing out scholarships to athletes if they were to go to Division II. Additionally, the travel expenses would be mounting up a lot more than they would be for Division III. You'd be traveling to schools like Mankato State and St. Cloud State on a bi-weekly basis for games, and if you were to join the WIAC in Wisconsin, the travel distance would be even farther. The likes of University of Wisconsin Oshkosh and the University of Wisconsin La Crosse, and even University of Wisconsin Superior would be teams you'd be playing. Those drives would be 3 hours plus for St. Thomas, and if they're to bus their teams there, the travel expenses will mount up, and you don't know if the WIAC would welcome St. Thomas with open arms either. So for now, St. Thomas is in the MIAC next fall, and that's where they should stay, content for now.
A Duluth News-Tribune op-ed made an argument for the Tommies to go Division I. Matt, what would it take to do that?
Well, in order to do that, St. Thomas would have to play it in D2 for at least 12 years. Now, in that time, they would have to learn a little bit more about the advanced competition, and they'd have to learn more about the recruiting section and a little bit more about the competitive field. But after 12 years, if they saw fit, they could definitely move up to play in like the Summit League, which is a lower D1 conference, and they would play in that league for baseball, basketball, and for things like track and field and hockey as well. Now, for football, they would have to play in the Missouri Valley Conference, which kind of has the same teams, but then they would also potentially have a new rival in North Dakota State University, who has won 7 out of the past 8 FCS football championships. So, yeah, that's what could potentially happen.
What happens next, Jacob?
Well, as Matthew mentioned, we can already rule out the option to jump to D1. We cannot do that as we'd have to play in Division II for 12 years. The other option, joining the MIAC, St. Thomas could do that, but right now St. Thomas is in the MIAC, and for futures to come, there's going to be delegations at meetings, there's going to be discussions. As of right now, though, St. Thomas is in the MIAC conference, and they will be for this coming fall.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us. Check TommyMedia.com for updates on this story and more. With Matt Curry and Jacob Schneider, I'm Kat Barrett. We'll see you next time we go in depth with Tommy Media.